Hi BookTube, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. Today I am coming to you with another in the Beginner's Guide to Romance series, and this one is on story themes / tropes. I prefer the term story themes. So within books in general, but specifically within, I'm going to talk of course within the romance novel community, if you will, there are themes. And I think a lot of romance readers are very familiar with themes and what they like and what they don't like. For the summer fling, I included some of those themes within the prompts: friends to lovers, road trip. So those are themes. So in this video, I'm going to talk just a little bit about a few of them. I've actually picked 10, and I'm going to give you 2 recommendations for each one that you can check out if it's a theme that you might want to check out for yourself. And this is in no way an exhaustive list. I am sure there are an absolute ton of them that I haven't even touched on. But these are the ones that I read, the ones that came to mind for me. And, you know, again, there's probably a lot of other ones out there. I encourage you to do searches on YouTube, on tropes, on romance tropes or romance themes or themes in romance novels, and you will find a ton of videos pertaining to this subject matter. So this is just a jumping off point. Search more from here. So the first one I'm going to talk about is childhood sweethearts. Of course, most of these are pretty self-explanatory. You know, a couple that was together in high school or maybe college and split up and now have met each other again as adults. This is one of my favorites, to be completely honest. And the first book I want to recommend is Exclusively Yours by Shannon and Stacey. This is the first book in the Kowalski family series, I believe. And they dated in high school and then they broke up, and she went on to become a reporter, and he went on to become a very famous writer, but nobody knows that he's this famous writer. He's a recluse, and he doesn't give interviews. His pictures are not on the back covers of his books, none of that stuff. And I guess they find out who he is, and her magazine publisher is like, you have to get an exclusive interview with him. I mean, you knew him in high school, kind of an idea. She didn't give the nature of their relationship in high school. So he agrees to the interview on one condition: that he will answer one question for every day that she spends camping with him and his family. And his family is his parents, his siblings, his nieces and nephews. It's hilarious. It is such a great story, and I highly recommend it. The other one is Forever My Girl by Heidi McLaughlin. This book would also fit into the secret baby category. We will talk about that in a little bit. But I put this one in with childhood sweethearts because this is another couple that dated in high school. They had a very, very bad breakup, and he went off and actually became a country music superstar. And then his best friend from home dies, and he comes back and meets back up with his ex. And that's kind of where the story kicks off. It was really good. They made a movie out of this book, I'm pretty sure. But I don't recall I never saw the movie. I don't think it did that great, but the book itself is not bad. I think I've read it twice, and I did enjoy it. The next theme is Enemies to Lovers, another favorite of mine, and you'll probably hear a lot about this kind of theme all over BookTube. And so essentially, again, these are pretty self-explanatory. 2 people who don't like each other who end up finding romance. And the first one is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, which was my favorite book last year. I love this book so, so much. So our main character, Olive, is sister to the bride getting married, and Ethan, our hero in the book, is the brother of the groom. And right after the wedding at the seafood buffet, everybody in the wedding party and every guest gets violently ill with stomach problems because of this buffet. So the sister, or like the bride and groom, had won this honeymoon to Hawaii. They couldn't go. So essentially, Olive and Ethan ended up taking the trip in their place. But they don't like each other and haven't liked each other since they met. So it was a fabulous story. I laughed out loud. It was a lot of fade to black adult content, so do keep that in mind if you're a little wary about some more spicy stuff. I love this one. Absolutely loved it. The other one I want to mention is Something About You by Julie James. This is the first book in the U.S. Attorney FBI series. So essentially what it is she's an attorney and he's an FBI agent, and she's staying at this hotel. I think it's in Washington, and a man in the next room is murdered. So when the FBI shows up to figure it out, she finds out it's her ex, or not her ex. It's a guy that she she was working with before, and she nearly ended his career for whatever it is that happened. So they don't particularly like each other, but now they're stuck working together to try and figure out what happened to this man. But of course, romance ensues. It was really, really good. The next theme is fake relationship. Again, pretty self-explanatory. These are your marriage of convenience, engagement of convenience, your I need a date for my sister's wedding, that kind of a trope, or theme, excuse me. So the two for this one, the first one is Blame It on the Billionaire by Naima Simone, which is a book I just very recently read. And in this one, he is trying to keep his mother from trying to hook him up with his ex-girlfriend, essentially. So this woman that he had a one-night stand with, they happen to work together. Of course they do. Again, a lot of novels you're going to notice cross multiple different themes. So this one could also work for the workplace romance. And so she just happens to be there when his mother shows up, and he's like, no, this is my fiance. So then it's the whole, she has to play his fiance, and of course, as it always goes, romance ensues. And it was delightful. I really enjoyed this book. The other one is The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. So let's throw a historical romance in the mix. This one is a fake relationship trope. It is Simon and Daphne, and I loved this book so much. So she is being hounded by her mother to get married. Of course, it's Regency England, and that's what a proper young lady is to do. And he is also being hounded to get married because he needs to produce an heir. So they're both sick of getting harped on constantly. So they agree to pretend to be, courting each other, or he's pretending to court her. And then, things go on from there. It was a delight. This book is so much fun. It's the first in the Bridgerton series, which is an absolute favorite of mine. Highly recommend it. The next one is a trope that I haven't read very much. But I was actually looking up tropes or themes online. I'm just so used to saying tropes because that's what everybody else says. And I came across this one. I went, oh yeah, I don't read a lot of it personally. I'm not against it. I just don't read a lot of it. And the two books that actually came to mind for this one are books that maybe, the second one at least, are not books that people would necessarily consider to be romance novels. So the first one is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Yes, it is an age, there's a lot of story themes in this book, but one of them is age gap. Jamie is a number of years younger than Claire, and if you really want to get technical, he's about 300 years older than Claire because it's a time travel. So, she is, however old when she goes back to 17th or 18th century Scotland. And, but even within the context when they're both in the same time period, he is a number of years younger than her. And it's a delight. It's still one of my favorite books of all. It is probably my favorite book of all time, and I love it. The other one, again, this one, a lot of people wouldn't really consider it a romance. I consider it to be a gothic romance, and that is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Our untitled female lead in this book marries a much older, wealthy man. And the whole premise of this book, if you haven't read it, it was really great. I'm hoping to do a reread of it maybe next year, is that his deceased wife, whose name is Rebecca, is kind of quote-unquote haunting the house. Not metaphysically, if you will, there's no ghost, but her spirit, if you're catching my drift, plays into every part of the house. That's not how Rebecca did it. That's not what Rebecca did. And, so the new wife is feeling very much not a part of the household. And it's very spooky, very gothic. It was really, really great. But of course, at the heart of the story, it is a romance. Because she falls in love with this much older man and ends up marrying him and going back to his home. So, and it of course works for an age gap as well. Next one, probably my least favorite trope. Not that I have major problems with it, but I find a lot of the times I don't like the way it's handled. And that is secret baby. I am not a fan of the whole secret baby trope or theme. I do not get it. If you end up having a relationship, whether it be one night or what have you with somebody, and you end up getting pregnant, you need to fess up. You need to tell the person, come on. It just bugs me. The two books that I did pick for this, actually do kind of show that they did try, at least the second one for sure. So the first one is Almost Perfect by Susan Mallery, which is the second book in the Fool's Gold series. So in this one, the couple dated in high school. They had a very bad breakup. And she left town, and she was pregnant. Now, The saving grace in this one is that she did try to come back and tell him. And his wife at the time is like, no, you can't be here. You need to leave. So she did try. She didn't try hard enough, but she did try. The other book that I want to mention is Mail Order Cowboy by Maisey Yates. This is a novella. It's book 1.5 in in the Gold Valley series. And in this one, it's a secret baby in the sense that one day this, rancher guy is working and there's a knock on his front door and there's a woman that he spent one night with holding out a baby carrier going, "Here you go, Dad," and taking off. So that's how he finds out that he is a father, is that the baby is essentially dropped on his doorstep. So then he hires a nanny, and it's the relationship between him and the nanny. It was really cute, but I do see it being a secret baby in there because he didn't know about this kid until it showed up on his front door. The next one is another favorite of mine, and that's Road Trip. I just love a road trip romance, probably because I love a road trip. I am a person who, on a vacation, yes, there's something to be said about flying to your destination and getting there and, then enjoying wherever you're going, Disney or whatever the case may be. But if you're you can physically drive there, I am all for the drive. Because that is half the fun of the actual vacation itself. So the 2 books for this one the first one is another Kristan Higgins, and it is My One and Only by Kristan Higgins. And this is sorry, just bear with me. Oh my gosh, I skipped one. I said this is the first Kristan Higgins. I skipped one. I'm going to go back. Sorry, guys. My One and Only by Kristan Higgins. And this is a road trip romance, of course. And it is about a couple. This is also a second chance romance. So in this one, childhood sweethearts, if you will. They dated many years ago. I think that they were married. Yes, they were. They were married. And then they meet back up at her sister's wedding. And they need to travel back together by car. So a good chunk of the book is the 2 of them in this car together. And the brilliant part about this story is that it goes from present day where the story is taking place, and it goes back to when they were married. Right from when they first got married, leading up to the eventual divorce and how their relationship fell apart. And it was amazingly done. I loved it so, so much. It was so fantastic. The other really great one that I can recommend is With This Heart by R.S. Gray. I don't want to give too much of this away because I went into this one blind. But what I do know is it's about a girl with a medical condition who essentially wants to take this road trip. She's never been able to really do anything in her life. And now that she's feeling better, she wants to take this road trip. And she meets up with this stranger. And the 2 of them go on this road trip. And that's all I'm going to say. And it was absolutely wonderful. I read it earlier this year, and I loved it so much. So the one that I accidentally skipped was Friends to Lovers, which is... It's not childhood sweethearts because childhood sweethearts dated, whereas Friends to Lovers they've been friends since they were kids, or they, have been friends for a number of years. A lot of people don't like this one because they don't see how it works. And I get what they're saying when I hear people talk about it, that, how can you have been a friend with somebody for all these years, then all of a sudden, you have feelings for them? It can happen. Circumstances change, you know what I mean? At least that's my opinion. Or it can be that whole other story theme of, it's your best friend's little sister. And, until she's all grown up, you really don't notice her kind of an idea, right? So the 2 books for this one, the first one, as I said, this is the other Kristan Higgins, is Just One of the Guys by Kristan Higgins, which I just reread again earlier this year, or earlier this last week, I should say. And it's a delight. I give this book 5 stars every time I read it. I absolutely love it. It is the story of Chastity and Trevor. And Chastity has 4 older brothers, and Trevor is a couple of the brothers' best friend. She's been in love with him forever. They did have a little bit of a relationship while they were in college. So there's a touch of childhood sweethearts in there, but not really, or second chance romance. But it only lasted a weekend, so would it really be considered a relationship? I don't know. But it's a delightful story, and it's a great Friends to Lovers. The other one is Truth or Beard by Penny Reid. And this is the first in the Winston Brothers series, and it is about... Is it Jessica? Jessica and Dwayne, I think. Yeah, it's Jessica and Dwayne. Dwayne is twin brothers with Beau. And she's been in love with Beau since they were kids. And then they run into each other, but it's a case of mistaken identity because Dwayne and Beau are identical. And she thinks she's making out in the corner with Beau, when in reality it's Dwayne. So then a relationship starts from there, but they've all known each other since they were kids. So it was really, really cute. I am a huge fan of the Winston Brothers series, and I highly encourage everyone to pick up that series. Just a couple more here, guys. Fairy tale retellings. These are always so much fun. So I found one historical and one contemporary to share with you. The historical is A Kiss at Midnight by Eloisa James. I'm mentioning the first book. This is a Cinderella retelling, if you couldn't tell from that gorgeous cover. This entire series is called the Fairy Tale series, and they're all retellings. The second book is A Beauty and the Beast, and I think the third book is The Prince and the Princess and the Pea. And this one was delightful. It is a very whimsical, almost otherworldly in a way. Like, it's not supernatural or paranormal or anything like that, but it almost seems to take place just outside our world in a more fanciful, I almost want to say like an Alice in Wonderland vibe to it, where everything is not quite the way it is here, if that makes sense. But it's absolutely delightful, and I loved it, and the writing was fabulous, and I highly encourage everybody to read this series, this entire series, but of course start with book number 1. The other one I want to mention is a contemporary, and it is A Princess in Theory by the great Alyssa Cole. I love Alyssa Cole's writing. So this one, I'm thinking, I don't know specifically what fairy tale it would actually retell, but it's about a woman who didn't know that she was a princess. And she's getting hounded by this prince, and she's thinking, yeah, this is some sort of like an email scam. Like, this guy's trying to tell me that I'm so-and-so. Yeah, right, I'm sorry. And then she ends up finding out the truth, and, you know, maybe like, would it be like, I don't think it'd be Princess and the Pauper, but I'm sure there's a fairy tale of that. You guys will probably shout out to me in the comments exactly what fairy tale it's trying to retell. But it was a delight, and I absolutely, maybe wasn't Cinderella, Snow White maybe? Which one was Sleeping Beauty? Was it Sleeping Beauty where she was taken from her parents and not told that she was a princess until the prince came because they were trying to keep her safe? Am I thinking right? Maybe that's part of, I think really with The Princess in Theory, it's like a whole bunch of stuff kind of all melded into one to make it an absolutely delightful book that you absolutely need to read. Anyway, next one is Workplace Romance. I'm sure, again, self-explanatory, you guys. The first one for this one is Pretty Face by Lucy Parker. I read this one at the beginning of the year, and it is the second book in the London Celebrities series, and it's a delight. It's about two people who work in the West End London Theatre, and they are both actors, and so they are working on a play together. This is also an enemies to lovers because they do not particularly like each other, but yet they are being forced to pretend to be a couple. So again, and it's also got in there, of course, the fake relationship story theme that they have to work together. They're trying to improve his image, essentially, because he seems to be like the bad boy of the theater. This was so good, and I absolutely loved it, and I highly recommend it. The other one was Rock Hard by Nalini Singh, which I read a number of years ago. Cannot remember the name of this series, but as you can tell from this cover, it gets very spicy. So this is about a boss and like the secretary that works for him. She's kind of always had a thing for her, and all of a sudden he's starting to notice her, and there's going to be a very hot and spicy relationship. It was really great. Nalini Singh is fantastic. I have not read her paranormal work, but I do love her contemporary, and this whole series is fantastic. And the last, we're going to end with the Amish. It's a big theme now in romance. It's a big, story theme. There are so many Amish books being written, not just by the love-inspired line from Harlequin, but just in mainstream fiction as well. And of course, a lot of Christian publishers are publishing Amish romance. And I find them delightful. And there really is within the Amish romances, yes, they are not going to be for everybody because they are very, very clean. I mean, very clean. And they're not for everybody, but if you are interested, maybe give them a try. So the two I want to recommend, the first one is The Hope by Patricia Davids. This, I believe, is the second book in a series. So this is about a woman whose husband died, and she has grown children. And I think it's her brother-in-law, her husband's brother, comes back to help her do some stuff around the farm. And then they end up having a relationship. So it was very sweet, very clean, but there's a lot of other things kind of going on within the background with her children and things like that. It was really, really good. The other one I loved, and it was Home by Dark by Marta Perry. So this one is a romantic suspense, and it's about a woman who is former Amish, and she comes back to her Amish community, and there's some problems going on. There is some children being murdered, or not children, but like teenagers being murdered, and people going missing, I think. Sorry, it was a little over a year ago that I read this one. And she is trying to kind of investigate. So like I said, it's like that romantic suspense kind of angle. And the relationship she has is with a man who I believe is English. So he's non-Amish and was never Amish, whereas she was born into the Amish faith and decided to leave. But really, really great commentary on the Amish community, and I really enjoyed it. I would absolutely consider this book to be Amish, even though neither of the leads are particularly Amish themselves, but it's still a clean story, and it was a great mystery, and that cover, just something about that cover I find is just stunning. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that one. So anyway, guys, that is all that I have for today's video. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite romance theme? If I had to pick, I would say friends to lovers on a road trip. I think that that would be delightful. And actually, it's funny that I think I'm actually going to be reading an enemies to lovers road trip novel coming up this month with Hairpin Curves, which is a female-female romance, which I'm very excited about. So yes, and that's really all I have. If you have any, like I said, any comments or questions, post them below. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Bye, guys.